The question is, are you new to statue collecting and you have absolutely no idea what you're doing? Well, that's what today's video is all about, is helping the newcomer to statue collecting. We're going to be talking about it up next. Hello everyone, it's the Batman Statue Collector, and like I said, today I'd like to focus on the noobs, the new people to collecting statues that have never really collected before, and you just don't know what to do. It's also very overwhelming, and so I wanted to kind of create a guide, a simple guide that might get you started. I was a beginner statue collector at one point, and I was very lost. There's all these different terms, there's all these different companies, and you don't really know where to start. And so I wanted to create this video to help some of you out as kind of a guide, like I said, a reference that might help explain some of the ins and outs of statue collecting. And I want to start out first with the various statue companies. All right, so like I said, today we're going to be starting out with statue companies. And the one I want to start out with first is probably the most well-known at this point, and that is Sideshow Collectibles. They are a company based in California. They've been around since the mid-90s, and they've been producing amazing work ever since. Not only comic books, comic book lines, movie lines, they've been making, life-size items. They've been making their own line where they create their own characters, like Court of the Dead. But they've been producing statues for a very long time, and they are probably, like I said, the biggest and well-known company out there. There are also other amazing companies. One of my favorite is Prime One Studio. There's also XM Studios. There is Iron Studios. There is Tweeterhead. There is Hot Toys. And all of these amazing companies out there, these are what I consider to be the top companies in the industry. And the cool thing about Sideshow, going back to them, is that they have become so big that they basically became a distributor for all the other statue companies. Now, not all of them, but they work with most of them. They work with Prime One, they work with Iron Studio, they work with Tweeterhead, they work with DC Direct, and a lot of other companies that I'm not naming, but they became a distributor for these other companies. So let's say a company like Prime One Studio. I own a ton of their pieces, but the only way I was able to get them for a while is through Sideshow. So I would order from Sideshow, and Sideshow would ship me Prime One Studios items. So it's really cool. It became an easy way for people, especially in the United States, to be able to get some of these statues that were made overseas. Now, Prime One Studio, let's say, they also now have their own website, and they actually ship their own products now as well. So a lot of these companies you can get directly from the company, or if you are lucky enough to live in the United States, it's a lot cheaper to order directly from Sideshow Collectibles because you don't have to pay the shipping. Now, a company like Prime One, like I said, that they are shipping their own items, but it's really expensive to get to the United States. But that is changing. They are working hard nonstop in order to get the cost down for shipping. So if you wanted to buy right from Prime One, you could do that, and eventually the shipping will be a little bit cheaper. But right now, if you live overseas, it's easier and cheaper to buy from them. If you live in the United States, it's a lot cheaper to buy from Sideshow. So think of Sideshow kind of as the great-grandfather of all these statue companies, and Sideshow works really well with all these other companies as well. So it makes it very easy to purchase these statues. Again, but there's so many great ones, and there's so many great companies. But like I said, Sideshow really works well because you're able to buy all these different companies' products through them, and it is hassle-free. They do great with returns. If there's ever a problem with your statue or a problem with your item, you can ship it back, and it's never been an issue. It's very simple to do, and they will take care of you. But again, some of the top statue companies for me: Sideshow Collectibles, Prime One Studio, XM Studios, Iron Studio, Tweeterhead, Hot Toys, and also DC Direct. Those are the main ones that come to mind for me. I know there's other ones out there, but right now those are the industry leaders in statue collecting. All right, so now let's move on to payment plans. Now, a lot of these statue companies, they let you buy a couple different ways. You can buy straight off the bat. Now, whenever you pre-order an item, a rule of thumb, it seems like, is a year. So if I order the item today and it's on pre-order, usually, and it's the day that it goes up for pre-order, usually I will have it in hand about a year later. Okay, you can go to the website like sideshow.com, and some of the items are already in stock. If it's in stock, you can buy it right out. But if you want to pre-order an item, you can either pay for it all at once. That's usually what I do. You're not actually charged for the full amount until the item ships. You are usually required to put down a non-refundable deposit. And so if I buy from Sideshow Collectibles, I have to put down that deposit, and then I have to wait a year. And then if I choose to pay all at once, I can do that, and it comes off my card. If I choose to cancel during that time, you do lose your non-refundable deposit, and which kind of stinks, but sometimes you have to do that. If there is a delay, over a 90-day delay, then they will refund that amount back to you, which I think is awesome. You can also do payment plans where you can pay in monthly installments up until the item's release. So if you don't have all that money saved and you want to, just put a little bit toward that statue each month, it's great. It's a great option to be able to do that. And most of the statue companies, like Sideshow Collectibles, like Prime One Studio, they have those payment plan options, which I think are absolutely great, because again, not everybody has all that money just sitting aside, especially when you're talking about large amounts of money like this. So the payment plan, in my opinion, is a great thing for collectors, and hopefully that lets you know that you can pay either installments or you can pay all at once. All right, since we were talking about payment plans, now let's talk about costs of statues. Now there is a wide range of prices for statue collecting, and you can go all the way down from $40, $50 all the way up to $2,000 or $3,000 or $4,000, depending on what you buy and what your range is. If you want something that's going to be in the let's say $100 range to $300 range, you're probably looking at something like DC Direct. You're looking at something like Iron Studios. They make 1/10 scale figures, which are about this big. You have 1/5 scale statues, which are about like that. It really just depends on what company, but that's going to be your general price range. Now this is great if you don't have a big budget, and if you don't have a lot of space. Those particular size statues are really great options. You can fit a lot of them in a really small space, and again, they're not that expensive in terms of the entire realm of statue collecting. Those are considered pretty cheap. Then as you get a little bit bigger, you look at 1/6 scale. That's going to be like your Hot Toys. Those are going to be about 12 inches tall, and they range anywhere from usually $300 to $400 depending on what you're getting. Sometimes more, sometimes a little bit less. But those are again great options if you don't have a ton of room and you like that particular scale. Next up then, of course, is the 1/4 scale. A lot of times they're called premium formats, which Sideshow Collectibles calls them, and those are the statues behind me. Those right now are ranging anywhere from usually $400 to $800 depending on the size of the statue. Prices have gone up quite a bit for those particular statues, but that's kind of the range that you're looking at. Sometimes you can get them a little bit cheaper, sometimes a little bit more expensive, just depending on which one you're going to get and how rare the item is. Then if we bump up a little bit further to 1/3 scale, now 1/3 scale is the collection that I have. I have a lot of 1/3 scale pieces. Those are going to range anywhere from $900 all the way up to about $1,600, depending on what you're buying. Some of the pieces are very large, very intricate, have massive bases, so the prices are a little bit more. When I first started collecting 1/3, they were right about $900, but of course the price does continue to go up, but I feel like it is a good price point for the amount of statue you get at 1/3 scale. Then also we have the 1/2 scale, and those are going to be your half scale figures. So they're going to take like a regular full-size person and shrink it down to half. They do have some busts at that scale. Those are usually called legendary scale. That's what Sideshow calls them. They don't make a ton of those busts anymore. I think that they'll probably have them from time to time, but they do have half scale figures. Prime One makes those. Sideshow does. from time to time as well, legendary scale, and they look really great. I prefer the 1/3 scale and 1/4 scale. I think they look the best, but there's a lot of people out there that do like that half scale. And then, of course, we're going to move up to life size. The bust behind me is a life size bust, the Batman and the Joker here. Sideshow Collectibles does make those life size busts. There are some other companies like Prime One that are getting into some of those, and so some people love them, some people hate them. I think you're either kind of one or the other. I really like the ones that I have in my collection. I don't know if I would have a ton more, because I like the full bodies of the statues and not just the upper half. But they are very dynamic pieces, and again, they're life size. Now, there are also companies like Sideshow Collectibles that will make a life-size statue, like a life-size Darth Vader or Stormtrooper. They are absolutely amazing. They take up a tremendous amount of room, though, because again, they are life-size. They're very intimidating, and you do have to have a lot of space in order to display them, and they are extremely expensive. But if you are an extreme collector, that's something that you might want in your collection. So again, the amount of money is very varied depending on what you get, but the bigger the item usually, and the more space they take up, the more money they're going to be. The smaller they are, oftentimes they are going to be your most affordable option, and also the best for space purposes. So when talking about space, I think it's very important to address what a lot of people use to display their items. Now, a lot of people, they might just go out and buy a bookshelf, like let's say at Walmart, and I've seen a lot of collections like that. The shelves are adjustable, you could set your statue on it. It looks great. The problem with that is a lot of these statues are very heavy. So you hear horror stories of people setting them on bookshelves and things like that, and the statues collapsing basically because of the weight. So a lot of people, what they've done, if you have a local IKEA near you, now my closest one is 3 hours away, but a lot of people use IKEA furniture, things like the Detolf, things like the packs. A lot of them use these items in order to display their items. Some are made of glass, some are basically glorified bookshelves, really, but you can adjust them to however you want your statues to look. I find that the look of them is very nice. I love it. It's very clean looking. People will add LED lights to their collection a lot of times. Again, from IKEA, or do custom jobs with it. IKEA at one point used to have these glass doors that would fit on the shelving as well. I don't think they have that as much anymore. And so a lot of people have their collection out in the open in these cubes, basically, and it is a nice look. Again, it's nice and clean. An option that I chose for my collection is I had to make custom shelving. If you are experienced at all with working with wood or metal, going to custom might be a good route for you, but I know a lot of people don't have that resource to do it, so that's why they go out to like IKEA and buy those type of items. But again, I don't have an IKEA really close to me, and my statues are really big. They won't fit in those particular bookshelf type units. And so I had to be creative and build my own. So there's lots of different display options. Some people like theirs behind glass, so it doesn't get as much dust on them. I have mine out in the open, which I prefer. I feel like it's more of a museum look. But I do have to dust my statues about once a week to keep the statue looking pristine, and I don't want a big layer of dust build up on my statues. So I do have to spend some time if you have your statues in the open air. You're also going to want to make sure your room is temperature controlled. You don't want it to be too hot in your room. You don't want it to be too cold. You want it to be a nice, good temperature so your statues don't suffer, your paint doesn't suffer, and the polystone doesn't have any problems with the heat, because you have heard some horror stories over the years where it gets too hot and stickers fall off or paint falls off. You don't want that to happen, and so having a temperature controlled room or space is really helpful if you can swing it. But again, there's lots of ways to display your items. Be as creative as you want to be. If you are just starting out, you probably don't need a ton of space, but as you have collected as long as I have, your spaces need to get bigger. Because something's got to give, because these statues do take up a good chunk of your room or your display area or your movie room, or sometimes people just put them in their office But if you're going to get one or two pieces, it's not that big a deal. But like I said, if you get a lot of pieces, you have to definitely think of space, how you're going to organize these statues, and what is going to work best for you. But I definitely recommend IKEA to start out with. There's lots of great display options, and I think you should definitely check out IKEA.com first to see what might work for you. And then if not, if you have a big collection, you might want to consider doing some custom work. All right, now let's talk about various versions of statues. So whenever you go to pre-order an item, let's say you went to sideshow.com, the day of pre-order, you're going to have two options generally. One of them is going to be the exclusive option, and the other is going to be the collector's edition. Now, in the old days, the price was the same no matter what you bought. But nowadays, the exclusive is going to be a little bit more money, sometimes like 20, 30 bucks, depending on which company. But the exclusive is going to maybe be an extra switch out or an extra head sculpt. So you can switch up the way your statue looks. I love exclusives. I don't always use them though, but exclusives are good for a couple different reasons. Okay, so number one, you can switch out them, and they're just a little bit more money than the collector's edition. Now the collector's edition, you're just going to get the regular statue without the added switch outs. It's just going to be the plain statue. Okay, so let's say that you buy the exclusive, and let's say in a year from now you want to sell that statue because you don't like it anymore. A lot of times if you have purchased the exclusive version, more people are willing to buy that. They're looking for that exclusive version. That's not always the case, but usually you can at least get your money back if you purchase the exclusive. So if it's something that interests you, I definitely recommend getting the exclusive. I think it's always a good idea. Most of my statues that I have purchased, I have bought the exclusive. However, there have been times where I just didn't want to spend the extra money because I also knew I wasn't going to probably sell the statue ever. So I've opted to go to the collector's edition because I didn't want to pay the extra $30 or $50 depending on what it was. So again, those are usually your two options: exclusive, which has the extra pieces, the extra swap outs, sometimes extra art depending on what the piece is, or again, you have the collector's edition, which is just going to be your standard statue, just the way it comes without those added pieces. So I hope that helps knowing which two that you can buy. All right, I wanted to take just another minute and talk again about the different terms of what statues are called. So the scale back here, the 1/4 scale, are called premium formats. And as I started collecting, the premium format meant it was 1/4 scale, and a lot of times it had sculpted elements and also fabric elements. That is not necessarily the case today. Sometimes premium formats do not have any cloth elements to them. Some people really like the cut and sew elements, those cloth elements. Some people hate them. They want their statues fully sculpted. So lately, most of the statues have been coming out fully sculpted. But every once in a while, you do get that classic cut and sew element, that fabric element added on to the statue. There's also the term called maquette. Maquettes are usually bigger than 1/4 scale. They are always usually fully sculpted as far as I know. So there has been some confusion as of late because there used to be rules when it came to these statues. But now it just really depends, I think, on how detailed the statue is and how big it is. So if it's slightly bigger than a premium format, 1/4 scale, maquettes are usually a little bit more expensive. There's a little bit more to them. Sometimes they might have a couple of different figures battling it out. It really just depends. But usually a premium format is one individual statue with a base. A lot of times, again, the maquettes are a little bit larger, a little bit more money, and a little bit more intricate base, I guess you could say. So again, those are the differences between that. Again, a life-size item is full size. It's like a full-size adult or a full-size bust. It's going to be life-size. Okay. I really like that scale. I think it's really cool, but it's not for everybody for sure, and it's definitely not for everybody's price point. Okay, so you do have, again, maquette, you have premium format, you have life-size. I'm probably forgetting some here. If I remember some of the other terms, I will put it down in the show notes down below. All right, let's talk one more thing here today, and I'd like to talk to you about insurance. If you have a very small collection and very small pieces, you probably do not need insurance. I have a large collection. I have a good chunk invested in these pieces of art that I have. And you have to look at it that way. These are pieces of art. These are something that you're going to want to look at all the time. It reflects the things that you love in this hobby. And so if this is something, if this is your passion and this is what you do, is you collect statues instead of buying new cars or buying motorcycles or buying boats, things like this. If you choose to be a statue collector like I have, it's a good idea to insure your collection. Now, I'm not going to offer any insurance advice on this video, but I do recommend that you do talk to an insurance agent, see what is available, tell them how much you think your collection's worth, and they will walk you through various options. But if you had a flood or if you have a fire in your home and you are not insured, you will probably not get your money back for these items. So as you get them, I recommend you photograph them, you document the bases, you document how much you spent, keep a running spreadsheet of your expenditures. I do think that I'm going to kind of transition into that right now as well, because I do think that keeping track of all that is incredibly important. But the insurance part of it is up to you, but I do recommend that you at least talk to an insurance agent and see what they can do to help make sure that your collection is insured and protected. Okay? In terms of, like I just mentioned, that spreadsheet, I think keeping track of your collection and the amount of money you're spending is a good idea. It's very easy for all of this to get out of hand because, again, there's so many statues that people want. There are so many great statues. This is probably the best time to be a statue collector that there's ever been. And so keeping track of the statues that you buy is important. At least it is to me, because then you can say, well, I need to kind of reel it in a little bit. I'm pre-ordering too many items. I'm not going to be able to afford this in the long run. I don't want to lose my money on my deposits. I don't want to lose that money, whether it's $80 or $100 or whatever it might be. I don't want to lose that. So keeping a spreadsheet, keeping track of how much you've spent. I keep a spreadsheet on how much I spent, how much the deductions have been after the deposit, if I have any reward points, if I basically when I'm going to be receiving the statue, I want to know that information as well. And so that is very important to me, and I just keep track of it all in a document. It keeps everything nice and neat. I know exactly when the statues are coming out, and it's just very handy. So I definitely recommend you do that. All right, so I just also mentioned reward points, and that's something that's definitely very important to collectors, because if you are a member of Sideshow Collectibles, or if you are a buyer from Prime One Studio, a lot of these companies have loyalty rewards, basically. And I'm just going to use Sideshow as an example. So if you buy a product from them, they're going to give you a certain amount of reward points back that you can then spend at a later date. So after a while, depending on how many statues that you purchase, you can get a very nice amount of money off of a statue, sometimes even statues for free, because you've accumulated so many points. It is an amazing thing. Like I said, I know Prime One Studio is doing that as well, something very similar if you buy from them. So really it just depends. It's kind of like a customer loyalty program, really is what it is. And so depending on who you buy, I buy most of my items through Sideshow Collectibles because I do live in the United States. It is the cheapest shipping option, and so I have a tremendous amount of reward points through them, and it definitely helps. And so every time I purchase a statue, a lot of times I just use some of those points toward that, and it makes the statue a little bit cheaper in the long run, which is awesome. Again, you can use that monthly plan to pay, or you can again pay outright. But regardless, that money is deducted from your total amount if you use those reward points. So it's definitely a great thing. It's a great thing for collectors, and it's definitely a wonderful thing that they offer, because it does make a giant difference for some of these statues that are very expensive to have. If you can get $100 or $200 or $300 off, or sometimes a free statue, that is pretty darn amazing. I absolutely love that statue companies offer this. So another thing, of course, is that some of these companies like Sideshow, they offer promo codes. So every once in a while they'll send a code out, and if you go to their website and put the code in, it might give you $2 or $3 off, and it saves all of those points as well. So again, it pays to be part of the community. If you can join the various Facebook groups, and so like my Facebook group is Batman Statue Collector Brotherhood of the Bat. If I see a promo code, I'm going to post it on my group, and people can copy that, go to Sideshow, and put it in, and it might give them $2 or $3. So again, those promo codes are a great way for fans to interact, and again, it's a great way for the statue company to give back. Again, all of those promo codes are saved just with your reward points. So if you want to save for a long time and get a big chunk of money off, it's definitely doable. It's very cool that they do that. I wish they did it more often. But again, it's so cool that they're giving away free money. Another thing that I would recommend that I kind of forgot about, but it's really important, is when they ship an item to you, it's going to come in a brown shipper box. And it's also going to come with an art box and then the statue inside styrofoam. Okay? I recommend as a collector that you keep all of it. People are wanting that extra protection. So if you sell a statue and you have the art box and you have the original brown shipper from UPS or wherever, that's what collectors are wanting. They're wanting that protection. They're wanting that peace of mind to know that it's going to get to them safely. I would also recommend, if you're ever shipping an item for sale, you definitely add insurance as well, because statues can break. They're made of polystone. They're going to break from time to time, and if you're not covered, then you have to pay that cost. So definitely insure it. But again, keep those boxes. Now the problem is, like a collection like mine where I have 40 pieces, that means I've got 40 boxes that I have to store. Some people have to rent out storage units because they have so many boxes. I am to that point, unfortunately. But don't throw them away. Unless you absolutely know that you're going to keep that statue forever and never get rid of it, then you can probably throw it away. That's no problem. But I would definitely keep the art box and definitely keep the brown shipper, because again, if you are going to sell it, that's what collectors are looking for. They're not going to be happy if you don't have those items. And I would definitely never ship a statue just like in bubble wrap or something like that. You want to have that protection, that styrofoam that it originally came with. You're not going to want to ship it again like bubble wrap. I've seen so many horror stories. I once bought an item from the United Kingdom. They didn't have the art box. They wrapped it in bubble wrap, and of course when I got it, it was broken. And then there was all kinds of problems with insurance, and the person wouldn't pay. It was a nightmare for me, and I lost a lot of money on that deal. So I learned to only purchase from other people that have that art box and that original brown shipper. And also, if you're going to buy from people on Facebook groups or other places, ask for references. Make sure that they have been dealing with other people in a positive way. There are scammers out there. There are people that just want your money. I've seen people, send a statue with a rock in it, like instead of the statue. So make sure that you are covered. Make sure you use things like PayPal. It's very risky to do friends and family unless you know the person and you trust the person. Definitely do it as goods and services, because again, you are protected that way if the seller does try to screw you over. Hopefully that doesn't happen. It doesn't happen all that often. Most people are genuine people, and they're going to make the transaction work because they want to make a good deal. They want the money. You might want the statue. So most of the time, people are going to do the right thing. But you do hear every once in a while about those horror stories where people do get burned. So again, make sure you're smart with how you are doing transactions. And again, last but not least, make sure that you keep those brown shippers, store them in a closet, because if you do ever want to sell, that's what the collectors are going to want. All right, so I'm guessing that I probably missed 1,000 things that I wanted to say in this video. If I think of the things I missed, I will definitely do a second video, but I just wanted to put something quick together to share my experiences and some of the things that you might not be aware of in terms of statue collecting. Hopefully I got everything correct, but this is from my experiences. Again, these are just my personal opinions, but I wish that there was a video like this out there when I first started collecting. So again, this is just for you that are just out there right now and you say, wow, these statues are amazing. I want to know more about them. I want to know who I should order from, who I should trust. Again, Sideshow Collectibles is the big daddy when it comes to ordering from statue companies. But again, that's the United States. There are issues if you live overseas with import fees and taxes and things like that. I have never done that. I'm not overseas, so I do not have those experiences, but I have heard horror stories. So do your research, ask around, join the Facebook groups, join the statue collecting forums, ask questions. Don't be afraid. No one's going to make fun of you. No one's going to think that you're an idiot because you don't know these things. ask around. This community is really awesome. There are just so many great people that I have met through these groups, amazing collectors just like you and me out there, that want to help you, that want to experience this joy of being a new collector with you. So don't be afraid to ask questions. Make sure you feel comfortable and find a group that works for you. There's lots of great groups out there. There is my group, Batman Statue Collector Brotherhood of the Bat. There is MCE, Marvelous Entertainment Group. There is Rad Titan. Those are some of the bigger names in collecting. Those are some amazing groups that you should join. They're going to help you out. They're going to kind of walk you through all of this as you get into this hobby. So I hope this video helped you just a little bit. And again, I hope it sets you on your way to an amazing collecting career as a statue collector, because it's such a fun hobby. It can be stressful. I did a video on that not too long ago too, about the stresses of statue collecting, and I might do another video here in just a little bit about that, because there are some stresses, especially with the costs and spaces involved. But regardless of your space, regardless of the cost, there is a statue out there for you. And so, you know, have fun, enjoy yourself, spend your money that you can. Don't overspend, because again, it can be a very big headache and a nightmare if you are not prepared with what you're doing in this hobby. So again, I hope this video helped just a little bit. As always, if you enjoyed this content, I would really appreciate a thumbs up. I would love for you to share this video. That definitely helps me out as well. And again, you guys just taking the time to watch this means the world to me. Thank you so very much for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe. And as always, I'll see you in the Batcave.